Okay, it's Tuesday 14th I think and it is pouring with rain today, absolutely pouring. All the footage that you're about to see was shot yesterday, bit of an update on the greens, but stay tuned towards the end, bit of a plot twist. It's Monday 13th September and it's time for another update on the drained greens and progress that we're making. So here I am on the 14th, and as you scan across that green you can see it looks pretty good again. Obviously still a long way to go, but it's starting to come across, and as you look at this back right hand corner you can see the lines are all green now. There's seed and grass coming up in all those lines, which is really good. There are a few lines here and there, this side of the green in particular, on the left hand side there's a few lines there where the seed isn't coming through quite so well. So we've got some weaker areas on the greens, but generally speaking they're really coming along quite nicely, and I'm really happy with where they've got to, considering the weather that we've had it through August and early September. So the next question really is when are they going back on? Everybody wants to know, and somebody asked me recently, will they be on before Christmas? Which you could leave them off that long, but I don't see any reason to. So like all of you, I want to see these greens back in play as soon as possible. It sounds obvious, but I really do want to see these greens back in play, and I'm going to tell you why. Greens are, when you grow turf on greens or on any surface for this type of sport, you're not growing flowers, you know, we're not trying to make pretty things. We've got to grow a plant which is tough, strong, robust, and deals with daily foot traffic, all the pressure of being mown short, the extra rolling we do, all the different processes that go on. We have to grow a plant that is really tough and strong. Growing flowers in a flower bed is relatively straightforward, you know, they barely get any contact. It's much easier to do. That's not what we're about, and that's not what we do as a greenkeeper. So we're trying to grow a really tough, strong plant, and what we don't want to see is soft growth. We don't want these greens to become soft because they're not being used. So although you may think it's too early, my view is, and I suppose I'm the one that knows what he's talking about here, hopefully, these greens can go back into play very soon, because we want to encourage the recovery while still avoiding soft growth on the green. On the basis that if we were to wait until these greens were perfect to put them back on, I think we'd probably be waiting, realistically it might be next spring before these greens are really perfect again, and you can't tell that we did this job. That's always been the case. It was never going to be anything other than that. So the question then is, when do you put the greens on? And the criteria for me for when the greens can go back into use is quite simple. When these greens roll better than the temporary greens do, and play better than the temporary greens do, then they can go back on. Obviously, as long as this is better than the temporary green, we should be using it, and it automatically is a little bit better because it's in the right place, it's at the right yardage, and the distance of the hole is correct. The other criteria for whether these greens are in use or not is quite simply whether there's any detrimental effect to them being in play, and if the answer to that is no, or it's at least a manageable effect, then we should be using the main greens. We all want to be back on them. It makes sense that that's what we do. And so what we're going to do is start putting these greens back into play very soon, in the next few days. And today we are dressing the greens again, spiking, rolling daily now. Although they may not look as good as we would like them to look, what we're going to do is concentrate on the most important thing, which is how they perform. So if the ball is rolling nicely, we'll be putting them back into use. Back on 14 now, you can see that this green has been half top dressed. The other load will be here soon, and we'll top dress this green. So the dressing is being worked in to the surface using a drag mat, which picks up, as I said in the previous video, picks up the sand, drops it in the low spots. So the lines where they're still a bit low will be filled by the drag mat each time we top dress, and we'll top dress these greens regularly, maybe even twice a week, so they'll always be a little bit sandy for the time being, just while we get the grass to come through in those lines fully and grip hold of all that sand and prevent the dip. And obviously the ultimate aim is to make sure that you can't tell that the lines were put in at all. And what you can see is, as soon as we put the dressing on, the lines instantly look worse than they were before, and that's because we're burying some of that green new seed that's coming through, but that comes back up very quickly, so these will be green again in a day or so as the grass just pushes its way back through the sand, and as we work the sand into the surface. The greens will go back into use starting this week, early midweek maybe, and the intention will be to put them back into use 2 or 3 days, rest them for a day or so, and gradually bring them back into full use, whilst promoting good tough sward that can deal with the stress that general use gives them. But we'll rest them a few days here and there, and the intention will be to try and make sure from probably midweek Thursday onwards, say, that we've at least got 4 of the 6 back on at all times, so that competitive golf can start to resume. We won't resume competitive golf, you know, in terms of the diary immediately. We'll leave that to probably the weekend, but visit the pro shop and to find out where the temps are, and we'll try and put it out on the message each morning that most of you will receive if you get the course update. So the course update will say that there is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, 6 temporary greens, and we'll tell you where they are on any given day. Having been raining all day quite heavily, and based on the footage that you've just seen, obviously we were contemplating when to put the greens on this week, in stages, 2 or 3 at a time, perhaps, things like that. And I look out my window today from my office. I was on the course all morning, but I looked out my office knowing that the B team were due, and the putting green had a huge puddle on it. The 12th green was holding water, and 18 was clear. No puddles on there at all, and it just forced the issue really for me. This is what we paid our money for, this is why we did the work, and these drain greens are far from perfect, to say the least, but they are playable today despite this horrendous weather. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so yesterday I recorded some footage, some of which I will still use for this update, effectively telling you why I think the greens are ready to come back on, what the criteria is, and that we're going to start using these drained greens. But the heavens have opened today with just over 18 millimeters of rain so far. It's about 1 o'clock, and I'm going to show you what we've actually done to these greens and why we did the work. So I'm out here, rain's actually eased off a little bit, but here I am on 12, one of the greens that we haven't yet done, and you can see water puddling. Unfortunately, where the pin is today, the water's puddled, so that's going to get moved before anybody gets here this afternoon from the B team. But here's the water, and earlier on today this was much worse than this, and I'm sure you all remember seeing it much worse than this. And I'm going to go on and show you the 8th green and perhaps 1 or 2 of the others, and just show you why we've done the work that we've done and the benefits of it. You can see we've got what you will see when I get to the other greens is they are dry on the surface and infinitely more playable than any of these other really wet greens, and definitely better than the temps, particularly on a wet day like today. And you can see around my feet there's water coming up, there's plenty of water splashing up around. Here I am on 8 then. I just showed you 12 puddling up today and after the rain, and here's 8. So as you can see, no water, no puddles, nothing coming up around my feet at all. This is what we did, this is why we did these greens. We've had just over 18 mil so far today. This green is perfectly playable, save that the lines aren't quite as far along as we would like at the moment. But this green is playable today, and so it's as I say, Tuesday, and the B team are, I think, about to brave the elements and come and play their match. So we're going to put these greens back on because they're infinitely better than the temps, because they're drier and they're playable, a little bobbly, but much better than the temporary greens. So these can go back on, and hopefully they enjoy the drier greens that we've got out here today. Here's another one then. I'm here on 7. Usual sort of front left, starting to puddle up. You can see that. Pin's out the way today, so the play won't be too bad at the back there, but it's starting to hold water. Rain's picked up a little bit more now. It's a little bit heavier. You can probably hear that on the umbrella, but this is 6. Actually a little bit of water running in from the side there, which is causing a small puddle here, but that is eventually just dropping into the drains and getting away, so nothing to worry about there. The rest of the green, I'm sure many of you will remember, this would have been some significant puddling down this side in particular. Again, perfectly playable. So here we are on 11 now, and as you can see, usual puddle appearing off the green at the back there. Most of our members will remember what this green would look like without the drainage system in it. And we've got a bit of water at the front. Quite a bit of water there actually. But again, the green is surface is dry, and we've even got Adam out rolling despite the 18, nearly 19 mil of rain now. And the observant of you now notice that the pin is on, because as I say, this is much better than the temp. I'll try and show you a couple of videos of a couple of clips of putting on this surface. So on 11, pin back on. I'll show you the roll. Adam, you're going to follow the roll for me. And you know, that's not bad. It's certainly as good as the temporary green. Nice 2-putt. Show you one more. Putting down the green. As you can see, a few bobbles here and there, but certainly better than the temp, and more than playable. This is what I managed to do next whilst out on the course, and I'm going to blame the rain for this, making my hands slippy, I don't know, but I managed to take several selfies of myself rather than record any actual footage, so a bit of a novice error there. So I'm just going to voice over these images and tell you what I was saying out on the course. First of all, just I wanted to give a big shout out to Sheltons, who have done a lot of this drainage work with us. Put 13,000 metres of pipe in the ground, and I haven't mentioned the fairways so far on this day, or, you know, on a day like today when it's absolutely pouring with rain, but the course is very, very playable. A little bit of casual water here and there, but it really is very, very playable, and that's largely due to the amount of drainage we've put in the ground. And then the greens in particular, as I've shown, they're working really well, and there's nothing too special in terms of the theory of this work. It's a traditional sort of perforated pipe, aggregates over the top, running downhill. It's not reliant on sort of capillary action or anything like that some of the other solutions out there are. This is a pretty standard drainage system, which is why I was very happy and confident I knew it would work. What's clever about it is the way they install it. 25 mil pipe on greens, you know, disruption is very, very low, and once we get the greens back in full cover, you know, you won't notice the pipes are there. So that's what's special about this lightning drainage from Shelton. But a shout out to them, because I think they've done a fantastic job working with us on this drainage. So I've just got a shot of the 14th green here. That's, again, no water on there, it's dry, playable, looks good. Moving past the 17th, you can see there's a bit of water just starting to puddle up on that one, and by now I think we'd topped over 19 mil, so it just kept coming down the rain yesterday. And then on 15 you can see again the water that's standing in front of the green here is probably one of our priorities for the winter drainage works. Try and get some pipes in that approach and drain that away, but there wouldn't have been a lot of play on this temporary green today, as you can see. But moving on to the main green itself is again dry, playable. More than happy to have that green back on. And then finally there's a shot of the first green just to show you a comparison of the drainage on the 6 greens that we've done. The lightning drainage is working really well, but this is what the USGA greens on the course look like. The USGA UK specification greens, they work and they work really well, firm, and drain nicely, and this is a £30,000 green, but I think it's fair to say that the Shelton drainage greens are doing just as well, considering, and probably a tenth of the cost. So just to wrap up, back in my office, having managed to take several selfies rather than videos out there yesterday in the rain. Greens are back on, largely back on. The B team didn't play in the end, but some of our members went out, and the feedback when they came back in was actually, despite not looking as good as we would want them to, the roll was quite good, and they were happy to be on the greens. So I think that's hopefully what you'll all agree when you get out there and play. Keep an eye on the update for how many greens are on or off, because as I said, we will rest them from time to time, make sure we get recovery time and time to do some extensive works to keep the recovery going as quick as possible. But greens are back in use, and look forward to your feedback. Thanks a lot.